Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, your host. And today I have a very dear friend joining us, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her story. It's a different one. We haven't covered anything like this before, and it's a really valuable story. It's a really important story. So I'm really grateful that my friend Kate Boccia is on with us today. And yeah, we will get into our story a little bit, but I've known Kate for 20 years, probably.
At
Yeah,
least.
long
Mhm.
time. And we met through the cystic fibrosis world after my boys were diagnosed. And yeah, I think probably Wine and Roses or something was our first time we met. But yeah, welcome, Kate. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having me. I'm excited to
yeah,
be here.
I'm excited to have you. And today we're going to be talking about your son, Daniel.
Mhm.
And we will get into his story. But, it's a story that I think so many people will relate to, as you know, as you ventured into this world that you weren't planning to be a part of, just like our CF world, we weren't planning to be a part of. Um, but as you did in the CF world, you took something that was really horrible and have done really pretty amazing things. And we'll get to that a little bit later on. But first, I want to really get into like your family, like share with us who you are, where you live, and then we'll get into a little bit about Daniel and Daniel when he came into your life.
Oh, Lord.
Oh no,
Okay. Yeah, oh, Lord. All
Lord.
moms that means. Well, again, thank you for having me, Pam. I'm Basha. I've been married 36 years to Frank and, have a daughter, Paige, and a son, Daniel. We currently live in Alpharetta. Been here about 34 years now, so I guess we're Southern officially. But, yeah, so we're here, both of us, Frank and I, just enjoying life in this age and our grandchildren. So I think we could start, back with how I came to the state of Georgia. I think that would be a good starting point. Frank and I lived in Florida. We had the babies down there. Daniel was born in 1990, Paige born in 1992. We moved to Georgia when they were 21 months and 8 months old. We were excited. Frank had a good opportunity for work that we thought, let's go to someplace new and exciting. And there was Atlanta looking at us. So brought our kids up to Alpharetta. We, bought the house in the little cul-de-sac in a white picket fence kind of neighborhood, like-minded neighbors, really good school systems. I always said I was, room mom, team mom, mom, soccer mom, all the mom stuff. I
All
was
the moms.
fortunate. Yeah, I was fortunate to be allowed to be a stay-at-home mom. My husband had a job that allowed me that to stay home and raise the kids. So, it was a really nice start to our family's life and our children's life. We just loved living up here and made great friends over the years. So um, that's how we started our journey. I say fast forward to, well, going right into my kids growing up. They went to the public schools here. Dana was both of them smart, good kids, good students, well behaved. Daniel always challenged us a little bit more than Paige.
Boys.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know. He was the kid school doing this all he was so I'll label him. He doesn't sit still, he doesn't behave, he's gotta calm down, maybe he needs to go get on Ritalin, that was the stuff that was starting to happen with him. Where Paige, on the other hand, was always really well behaved, an easy student, and a okay C student. Well, Dana was A, but she was the
Oh,
C because
uh,
they didn't she was good, right? It was
yeah.
okay to keep her
Mhm.
and not, but I would say that her teachers, "Well, she's actually smart, she should be getting A's. I don't what do we need to do? What do we need to do?" And then so that's managing the 2 children like we all know. We had all the sporting activities that we were all involved with as y'all as every mother knows. Dan tried every sport in the world. Paige didn't like sports, she liked horses, so she did the horse scene.
Uh-huh.
So so as time went on and Daniel got into that age, I think it was September 11th. I had just put both of the children in a private school because of Paige. I felt like she wasn't getting what she needed, and I felt like Daniel wasn't getting what he needed. So they were in 4th and 6th grade, and then September 11th happened, and I was always grateful that I had put them in at that time when the world was so crazy. Daniel did not like it. He did really well there, but he stayed 1 year, went back to public school. Paige stayed 3 years and went back to public school after that. Um, So that was our kind of beginning journey of parenting and growing in our family here up in the North Fulton suburbs of Atlanta. Yeah, and then yeah,
So that's
parent
normal, all of it pretty normal with what
yeah,
everybody can relate to. Yeah, yeah,
right,
that's
happy, normal life. So my son was both my kids had a great sphere of friends. Daniels was intended to be a leader, and he was a good-looking kid, and he was a leader, and he was funny and well-liked. So he tended to kind of run the packs of boys. Boys are like a pack of dogs. They're fine in the house, one dog at a time. You put them in a pack, and they kill it.
yeah.
They
They're
don't even know why they did it. So starting to get into a little bit of trouble. Just I felt like normal trouble as far as um, I don't know, just normal trouble in school, maybe skipping a class, getting caught with a beer, that are things like that that I didn't feel alarmed, but I also knew because I thought you got nothing
yeah.
on me, kid. When
I
I was a
know,
kid,
back in the day.
poor boring kids, you don't even know what the stories are like. So I didn't pay attention much other than to hope he would grow out of it. He became more difficult in school. He did not like school. High school, and in middle school he was okay, but by high school I think he was just too smart for school and too bored, and I think a lot of parents understand that as well. Like, if he doesn't, if and he got into trouble a lot, so the teacher didn't, he's a trouble kid, so we're gonna write him up.
Yeah, then you're tracked. You're
Yeah,
tracked as the
yeah,
trouble. Mhm.
exactly. He was that. So he decided in 11th grade that he was going to quit school because he wasn't going to graduate in time because of the way his courses. I actually went to Frank and I both went to his counselor and his teacher and asked, what can we do? And I remember the one teacher said, I have 140 students. I don't have time to worry about your son. And I
Oh,
thought, well, I'm confused here.
good
you're
job.
my school that you're supposed to be helping us to help him so that he can graduate.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's kind of how it went. So Daniel didn't quit school and he was old enough to do that. He was 17. So he got his GED, like ace that thing. I'm like, dude, you see how smart you are? Like he got like top whatever the highest score is on your GED. So, yeah. So that was
I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second because I feel like that's such a common thing with kids, with boys, especially with ADD, ADHD. They are so smart, and they also they know that they're smart, and, I'm saying this because of my own experience with Jake. It was like, uh, he felt like he was smarter than everybody else too. So,
Mhm.
it was like, "What am I doing here?" Like, I could teach this class right now. This is a total waste of my time. It sounds like Daniel kind of followed that
He did.
same, like,
Yeah.
I can knock out my GED and be done and not be wasting another year and a half in this stupid building.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're exactly right. I think he ended up leaving, for a minute going to one of those alternative schools. That was one of his beginning his slippery slopes. Even prior to that, though, so Daniel, he had been he had his wisdom teeth pulled. I think a lot of people go, "Uh-oh, we already know this story." And the doctor gave me this vial of Percocets, and I handed it to him. I said, "Here's the instructions.
Mhm.
Gee, have this vial of drugs," not knowing what I know now. Um, so he was telling me that in school, like I found one time some Adderall. So he didn't. I never did get him diagnosed with ADD and didn't put him on Adderall, but they were sharing. The kids in the schools were starting to share them. This is back in when he was in 11th grade before he quit school. And I used to tell him, all the kids, you can't share. Do read right here. Take only as directed. You see your names on. And I was like that kind of. It
Yeah.
made sense. I thought it was making sense to them, not realizing that they were getting this fulfillment from these drugs. That was something that none of us could understand. So Dana quit school, but he ended up going up to North Carolina to a technical school up there. We packed him up. I was so excited because he was stressing me out. Like, he was just too much all over the place and he's not working. He quit every other job. And so we're packing him up. I helped set up his room. I'm so excited. Off I go home. And a couple weekends later, he shows up, home for the weekend. I'm like, oh, okay, what are you doing here? I thought you're And this kinda kept happening through the beginning of that school year, kept coming home, and then we get the call from his landlord that he was, gonna kick him out of the room because he was stealing his OxyContins. Yeah. And I knew that Dan was having he was his behavior was really off when he would come home, but I didn't understand what I know now. So and I didn't understand Oxycontin. Nobody did. This was in 2010 or 11.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody in this country understood what it was, and I did remember thinking Rush Limbaugh was addicted to Oxycontin, so therefore, he was fine, so Dana will be fine, everything's fine. I never I never even used the word addicted for him at that point, but that was what was happening. He got kicked out, landed back on our doorstep, and, things just got uglier and uglier every day to the point that we realized that we were in trouble, and, at that point, Paige was headed off to college. She graduated a year after he would have and went off to college, which I'm always grateful that she wasn't around during this really difficult time with him and his behavior, out of control. He was never bad to us, Frank or I. He was always a really good son. He was a very loving, loved his family, but he was, off all hours of the night. Just, I never knew where he was. I never knew what was going on. It was just everything was wrong. Mother knows, mother's instinct, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, and I'm sure the fear and the anxiety and the all of the things that go into, like, what is happening? Where is he? Is he safe? Is he making good choices? Yeah, I can't with the stress of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was such a charmer. He'd come home, "Mom, I'm fine." He would give me a big hug, "Don't worry, I'm good." Just easily melt and say, "Okay, he's fine, he's fine." And I started picking at his father. His father's getting pissed. Now Frank's like, "Listen, you fucking little moron. You're a loser. You don't have a job. You want me to just give you money? What the hell's going on here? No, this is stopping today." And, so they were very, becoming this thing, the 2 of them. And I was, like, trying to enable and protect my son and try to convince my husband that he's okay. So all the wrong stuff, right? Like, we're just all the wrong stuff doing it. Because
So
what I
typical stuff,
yeah,
very, very normal, common stuff.
right,
Yeah.
because what I've learned over the decades is that if moms could fix their kids,
Yeah.
there would be no CF, there'd be no addiction, there'd be nothing. If we always say if moms had all the resources at our fingertips that the government has, we could fix our children,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
we don't. So we don't have a rule book, and we're pointing fingers at. We're told you shouldn't have let him do that. No, look at his long hair and could always get that red stripe in it. Oh, you let him get a tattoo. Oh, mom, you did this. Oh, mom, you did that. So it must have been my fault that my son was
Well, yeah,
being.
because the mom does it ultimately the buck stops with the mom as well.
That's right. Yep.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I was going out everywhere looking for help. I went to the school, remember I said, and they poo pooed me. And then he quit school. I went to the mayor of Alpharetta at the time. Sat at a meeting with him and said, "I need help. My son's addicted to drugs. He's falling apart." And he says to me, "Have you tried rehab?" And I said, "Well, why, that's why they call you the mayor now, isn't it?" Are you kidding me, dude? You got 50 grand to spare? Do you
Yeah.
even know what you're talking about? I realized he had no clue. Alpharetta doesn't have this kind of problem. But what
Yeah.
was starting to happen as I was starting to see kids die. I was hearing it because of my children's circle, right? And that's
And
all
that
that.
was the time too, remember I think this just popped into my head. Remember when all, like, the news reports were coming out about it was like the Atlanta Triangle or whatever they called it.
The heroin triangle, I'm in that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
And
my god, I didn't put that
that's when
together.
it was all
Mhm.
becoming noticeable. The public was starting to know because kids were starting to die. And I
Yeah,
was
and it was
hearing it
the
from
white
kids.
upper middle kids that
Yeah.
ever "What? Wait,
Yeah, what's
what?"
going on there? And
Mhm.
so I actually, I started paying attention to when the children were dying and trying to speak to various leaders in our community. I actually started keeping a spreadsheet because I couldn't keep track. That's how many were dying. I was over 100 kids at one point that had died
I
in
didn't
the
realize.
North area, and several from Alpharetta High School, several from Chat. I mean, all the high schools got hit. All of even the the big high level private schools were impacted, but nobody was talking about it. And that was the thing that I was always doing. I would say, we have to talk about this. We have to explain to each other. We have to figure this thing out. And how
Yeah.
do we? That was always my thing. So Dana was getting worse and worse, and with his addiction to the opioids, and that was in 2011. So in 2000, early 2011, Frank and I were in bed. It was late, and some girls came over to our home in the middle of the night. We didn't know because we were sleeping. We heard a commotion, woke us up, and Frank ran upstairs. And I'm still in bed, but I hear all this commotion, and I hear somebody's got to call 911. So I come out of my bedroom. I see Frank carrying one girl and Daniel carrying another girl down my stairs.
Uh-huh.
They went out to the garage. In the meantime, we're calling 911, and the operator saying, I said, these girls are passed out. And they said, put them on the floor and start CPR. So I'm in the garage at 2 o'clock in the morning doing CPR on this young teenager.
My God.
And I guess Frank, somebody else was doing CPR on the other one. I don't even remember at this point. It might have been one of the other girls. There was 4 girls there. And so the people get there finally, the first responders and firemen, and the whole house is full of people. And my son was basically looked okay. I mean, he was, Mom, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. I said, oh my God, no, they just OD'd in my house. I mean, they're like, the cops came, they took him off in ambulances, and the cops now want to search my home.
Mm.
And there's to Daniel's room, and Daniel's like, "It's all right, Mom, it's okay." I'm like, "What are you doing? Why get out of my house?" I mean, they searched his room and they found, some paraphernalia of heroin, and that's when I realized that he had gatewayed over from the opioids to the heroin. The girls had brought the drugs to the house because he was actually, I forgot, Dana was, he had I'll back up to his other story, but he was already on house arrest. I get him confused now because it was a year of hell, Pam,
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah. Nightmare.
A movie couldn't be as scary as this.
Right.
But yeah, he was on house arrest. Oh yeah, because back at the November prior to this was in April. He had been arrested at Georgia Tech with his buddy for in charge of armed robbery. They were okay. So yeah, sorry, audience. There's a little bit of a piece I forgot. Yeah, I got that first call at 4:30 a.m. No mother wants that call. If the
No.
phone rings at 4:30 a.m., you have teenagers. Is like
No, it's
you're
not
like
good.
it's no, you just nothing good is going to be on the other end of this call. And it was Mom, I was just arrested. The night before that he went out, I said to him, he said, "Where should we go, Mom?" He was 21 at the time. That's right. I said, "I don't care, but if you call me with a DUI, don't bother. You're
Yeah.
staying. I'm not even bailing your ass out. You are stuck.
You're stuck.
Don't call me." 4:30 a.m. I get the call. Mom, I've been arrested. Oh my God, jerk. What have you been? It's armed robbery. What are you talking about? What do you mean? I don't even understand what you're saying to me. Frank was out of town at the time, which is great too. Somehow Frank raced home. He got home the next morning, and we went down to the Fulton County Jail. If you hadn't had a chance, if y'all Fulton County residents, are you a Fulton County residents?
I
As
am.
your you ought to tour it because it's your jail. Y'all trust me, you ought
I
to
saw the reality show about it, and
yeah,
holy shit.
yeah, read
It was
it's
it's
true,
one of
read
the
it.
worst in the country, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a disaster. Well, they all the jails are, but that's another talk show. So we got him out, and that was, we kinda were in this legal conundrum now waiting to figure out, like, what do you mean armed robbery and what's this all about? So, the judge, when they gave him his bonds, required him to stay home on house kinda like a curfew. Like, he could be out from 7 AM till 8 PM or something. So that's why the girls came over to our house at night. He couldn't go anywhere. So, we're battling that legal thing, and then now these girls come and this happens. Cops find stuff in his room, they take off. Um, about a week later, I knew some of the district attorneys and stuff in the area, and I got a phone call from one of them saying there was a warrant out for Daniel's arrest. I'm like, "What? What the hell are you talking about?" It's for this overdose that happened at the house. They were charging him with, criminal mischief, criminal something. It was a criminal. It wasn't a felony, but it was a serious charge. So I said to him, "Look, we'll bring him in Monday." My dad it was Wine and Roses weekend. It was in April. My dad was coming to town for Wine and Roses. So I said to the officer, or I called the police department. I said, "Can we just bring him in on Monday after my dad leaves? I don't want to upset my father. He's older, and sure, that won't be a problem." Dad was going to be coming in Friday. This is Thursday. Frank and I went out to dinner. Daniel was home on his curfew. Came back, and there's no Daniel. His dog is there. His car is there. His wallet's there. Daniel's not there. Now, when I left my house, I realized there was a car sitting down kinda end of the street, and it made me uncomfortable, like, we're detectives watching our house, and, they came and got him. What they did was they came up after they saw us leave, they called in, and they came to the front door. We had a big glass front door that was, the storm door was t all the way in, and they were standing there with their guns drawn to arrest Daniel. Now, he had a pit bull dog that was on the couch, and that dog had a serious injury in its leg, so it wasn't able to get up off the couch. And I often think, thank God, because they probably would have shot it because it would have charged him. He wasn't a mean dog. He would have come running up. So
Yeah.
they came to my house with guns drawn, arrested, took him, handcuffed him, brought him down to the Alpharetta Police Department, and charged, and then sent him back to Fulton County Jail, which is now his second time that hellhole. Um, which they didn't have to do that. They could have let him go that night. The whole thing was just ridiculous. So now we're just taking, yeah.
So we're waiting for you to leave? Like, what the hell?
I was gonna bring him in Monday. Now think about it, everybody, all paid taxes to arrest my son again,
Mhm.
send out those detectives, that costs money, do what they did, take him down to book him into Fulton Alfred Jail, and then get 2 sheriffs from Fulton County, taxes, drive up to Alpharetta, get this kid to bring him back down to Rice Street where he spends another 6 days on your tax dollars. I always say that. People don't understand. That costs everybody money for no
Yeah.
need. We could just
For no reason.
brought him in. Well, they charged him with those girls' overdose, but in fact, they brought the drugs to my house. I told that police that. They brought them in. They did, I don't understand why. And the other thing, those girls, those parents never reached out to me,
Oh my god.
ever.
You,
Now, if
like,
that were your daughter, what would you do?
my god, you saved their lives.
Yeah. I mean, and first of all, what are our kids doing? Why are they all together doing drugs? Let's talk again.
So
Here we
about
go.
that. Yeah. Oh my
Anyway,
god.
so that's how my life was heading. Daniel's life was heading. We were now facing that armed robbery case, October 2012. We ended up finally got a court date because we were just going to court. I don't know. I've never been to court like this before. We're going to go in front of a jury of our peers and we're going to tell the truth and everything will be fine. Because Daniel didn't, when he got charged with armed robbery, he had no weapon. He stole nothing. He hit nobody per victim testimony. I have a video of the crime scene that is, I've never really shown it much. I do, and I will again in the near future, but it was the silliest little a bunch of drunk boys at a frat party. I'm not saying Daniel wasn't, I'm sure he was up to no good. He was at the frat party, he didn't go there, but all his buddies went to that particular frat house. And it was Georgia Tech game day, so that they had their games all day. And then that night, like I said, the kids all partied and
Party all day long.
2 a.m. ain't nothing happening good at 2 a.m. at a frat house
No. On a game day.
on a game day.
Really bad. Yeah.
Even though, yeah. So the fight ensued with amongst these boys, and the Georgia Tech cops came, arrested Daniel and his co-defendant Brandon, and charged them both with armed robbery and a few other charges. So go to court thinking that the truth will come out and everything will be fine. And 3 days of trial. Um, they were both Brandon and his co-defendant Daniel were at that point a real mess in their drug addiction. They were just totally raging heroin addicts at that point, and they couldn't come to they couldn't even figure out this whole court thing. Well, Brandon ended up during a break left and didn't come back to court, and the judge is waiting and waiting and waiting. We're all sitting there, and even the kid's mother was there next to me, and we're like, "Where is he? Where is he?" Well, wait, he was going to get a hit someplace.
God.
Yeah, he finally showed back up. In the meantime, Daniel was on the stand, and his attorney decided to put him on the stand to testify because the guy wasn't there, and we wanted to make sure that Daniel could tell something so that the jury wouldn't think that they are bad guys. Anyway, all that said, Friday we went to break. All the court proceedings are done, and frankly, I knew it wasn't going to be good. But that we went to eat at a food truck, and I always say that was the best meal Daniel had in his life. And it was not that good because the next thing was we, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel J. Boccia, guilty. Bang. And we knew that second that gavel hit that thing, it was like 10 years mandatory minimum sentence. He was going to prison for a minimum of 10 years, not 1 day less because of
And
the
that
arm.
he didn't have a weapon, didn't steal anything.
Correct.
He's literally in a fight at a frat party.
Yeah. It was a bad fight too. It looked like a bunch of girls. So I'm like, I could fight better than that dude. I tell him that all the time. It's true. I'll show it to you one day, Pam.
Oh,
So well, that day was like the day. I always say that was the day. That's the first day that Daniel died. It was as if he died. I grieved death. I grieved deep grief. When they whisked him off, I remember him. They grabbed him. All the sheriffs were by him. They grabbed him, yanked his arms, and handcuffed him right there. Again, was this necessary? He turned around, looked at me, and yelled, "Mama!" And I'm like, "Daniel!" And then the sheriff's are on me, "Ma'am, you have to be seated." I'm like, "I have to do nothing. What are you talking about?
My god.
My kid's going to prison for 10 years." Sentencing was the following week was sentencing. This was October 24th. October 31st, Halloween, was the day they sentenced him, and that judge, I won't say her name here, they often Google and find out, sentenced Daniel to 15 years to do 14, which meant he was gonna do 14 years of time before he could ever even be considered for release. He
What
could
was
not.
what was the reasoning? Like, what that is so I mean, I've obviously peripherally this story with with you, but, like, I never understood that, like, what was the and to my in my mind, it was always like, you're just trying to make an example of him, like, what was the reasoning?
I think there was that. The judge was a newer judge. She didn't like Daniel when he testified. I think she did say it later on when we had a resentencing hearing that she thought he was a liar and that, a lot of things she didn't like him, and so she was setting an example, but to do what, we never were sure. So, off he went, spent about 2 weeks in Fulton County Jail before Georgia Department of Corrections came and got him. They came and got him November 19th, and, what happens then is he goes into the state system and you don't hear from him. Like, I couldn't talk to him or see him. I couldn't see him at the jail except on video visits, which are shaky at best. But now I knew that he's gonna go through classification and diagnostics. That's a several week period that there's nothing out. Thanksgiving, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my life, Frank and I remember when we left there, our friends were all there, thank God. I don't remember how we got home, but we got home, and that whole week prior to, I barely remember functioning.
Yeah.
I remember crying a lot and drinking a lot, and crying a lot and drinking a lot, and drinking more and crying more, and wearing just gray sweats, and just that's depression, and I think you
Literally,
know.
like, yeah, mourning a loss.
Yeah, it was
And
deep and it
yes,
hurt.
preemptive loss at that point too, because, that's before the sentencing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the original, just knowing he was going for 10 years and now we got this extra. Yeah, so I remember one night we went to bed half the night, one of us would be crying in the middle of the night in the bed, which was god awful. But I woke up one morning really early, dark still, like 5 in the morning. I was smelling like pork chops or something. What am I smelling? Go into the kitchen. Frank's got the big green cast iron pot. He had gone to Walmart in the middle of the night and bought all the ingredients to make his Sunday meatballs gravy stuff. And that was his way. That was his coping mechanism, the cooking. He didn't know what else to do. I remember saying, "I guess we're having people for dinner," because it was so it was boiling. Meatballs was showing up over the top, sausage and pork chops, and I so we were trying to deal with grief and try to figure out this thing now, that this new phase that we're in. Now Daniel was when he was sentenced, he used heroin, so he detoxed in Fulton County Jail. He never had nobody acknowledged when he went to diagnostics in prison. They didn't talk about his addiction. They didn't ask him about that. They asked him if he was ever depressed, and he said, "Only when I'm awake."
Oh, wow.
Think, "Am I depressed? I just got sentenced to 15 years in prison. I'm 21 years old or
Say, and he
20."
was 1? Yeah.
Yeah, he had just turned 22 like 4 days before his conviction. So, yeah, off he went. So when he was at Georgia Diagnostics, he said there was a counselor that took him under his wing and let him come up to her office and read books and stuff. So that was kind of encouraging. But he finally got ready to go to his permanent camp. We call him camp. No
Wow.
camp, no camp. Yeah, I want your kids to go there. I'm calling it that. It's not a camp. So when he was getting ready to be transferred, they shackle him. Shackles, wrists, ankles, waist. Put him on the bus with a bunch of other guys to go. Nobody knows where they're going. They don't tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, he's sitting on that bus at the diagnostics down in Jackson, Georgia, waiting to go wherever. And all of a sudden, the CERT team, which is kind of like the big guys, the squad, this tactical squad, comes racing around the yard, and they saw an inmate with a uniform covered in blood, and that he had stabbed somebody to death. So now they're on the transport bus, waiting to go to wherever they're all going to go. And now they got the whole thing like roped off for a crime scene.
Oh
And
my
he sat on that bus for 9 hours.
shackled.
Yeah. Mhm. All of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there was a toilet on the bus that they could use, and they gave him a brown bag of nasty food.
Oh
So
my
that's
god.
welcome to prison. Actually, and I've been looking for this. When he was in that phase, he sent me a postcard, a little postcard that said, "Dear Mama, I miss you so much. This place is no joke. I've seen people stabbed and beaten and shit." That's my first letter from him.
Oh my god.
What are you talking about? Did he send him to war, or did they send him to prison?
Right.
He went
So
down, and that was
when
that.
let me back up one second. When you said
Yeah.
he had that classification process period, what does that even mean? What are they doing during that?
So all men and women who are sentenced to go to prison in Georgia, state of Georgia, and probably every state, go to facility that they do diagnostics and classify them. So they figure out what they're what's wrong, and then based on their crime and their age and kind of kind of actuarial, if you will, they figure out their placement. Is it going to be in low, medium, or high
Oh,
security?
I see. Okay, so they're classifying what branch of prison they're gonna be sent to.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
But there was classified at medium security, which we were grateful for because an armed robbery can automatically send you to closed or high or maximum security, which is no joke.
Yeah,
So they
who's
sent
gonna
him
be
down.
there?
Yeah, they found, he was able to call me that, I think, right before he was shipped. That's the term. I have a whole blog on the prison language. It's pretty funny, actually. Not a
Yeah,
blog. Yeah. Blog. But yeah,
yeah.
he was shipped, shackled, and shakedown. Anyway, off he went to Autry State Prison, which is as far south west as you can go. You can touch Alabama and Florida, basically, from
Wow.
Autry
So
State
literally
Prison.
as away from you as you could get in
Yeah.
this with the
Well,
same
yeah. Yeah, 4 hours and 20 minute one
oh
way
my
drive.
god. Mhm.
So that's where he went, and that's how, life became a different thing.
Yeah, whole new thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the grief was so horrific at the beginning that those first several months, I say it was 111 days. I remember Paige coming home from school and sitting down on the ottoman and, "Mommy, do you really need another glass of wine?" I said, "Yeah, I do, honey.
Yeah, I really
Please
do.
get it for me. I need it." And I was such a disaster. I mean, the grief, I mean, everything. I remember looking at my gray flannel, like, pajamas I wore all day, every day, and it was like, when
Yeah.
they're crusty. Like, literally, I cried so much. And actually then, January 31st, I got fired from my job
Oh my god.
as a collateral result of my son going to prison because I couldn't function. I wasn't doing my job well. It was rightfully so. Yeah, I didn't even care. I was like, "Good. I don't need to work. I'll
I
just sit
wonder
here."
too if there's like I mean, now you've been through both. I imagine that it's a separate kind of hell than actually losing someone, like, when they die, because the helplessness of it and the it's gotta f you've gotta feel so helpless and so, like also, what the fuck? Like, when you think about Daniel's circumstances. Now,
Yeah,
no, you're not denying that he didn't make some bad choices. You're not denying that. You're not sa but what he had for consequences did not match the crime. And it didn't match the history. So it's such a weird and I'm sure I never thought about this either. I'm sure it was a direct result of us being labeled that triangle. So I'm sure there was some of that at play, but also shitty that she just didn't like him, and that's just
um,
shitty. You don't
yep,
sentence somebody on that. You sentence them on facts. Yeah. Yeah. Judges aren't supposed to do that. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's so, like, it's almost like, perpetual grief because when someone dies, there is an ending, there is an ending so you can, like, be now we're at the ending, even, like, in John's circumstance where it was a 3-year process, with his illness. When it happens, there's an ending, so it's almost like you can be like, "Okay, now whatever period of time you need for the grief and then start healing," but you're, like, in this in
yeah,
between
like a war
horrible
time
place.
war.
No like, anything can happen at any given second with him in that
Any
in
second.
that institution.
He would call me up and say, "Mom, I just saw someone stabbed. Mom, I gotta sleep with my boots on because I might have to get up and run in the middle of the night in case there's a riot." I mean, kind of fear. Every time the phone rang and it was his phone that they could call from, my heart would just stop, and I would be so scared to hear what I was gonna hear on the other end. Like, it's either, "Oh, oh my god, I need help," or, "Mom, I'm so mad about this," or, "Hey, mom." I mean, I just never knew. So I was, like, literally would shake when that phone would
It's
ring.
like a constant state of fight or flight too, so your cortisol levels had to be totally
Oh,
fucked. Like,
yep.
yeah,
It does, it messes with everything.
yeah,
So when he finally was, we were so scared for his safety at that prison, I happened to meet some people. I went to an event where Department of Corrections folks were there, which is what I started doing, which was part of my healing path, was to, like, wake up and figure out, okay, I got to figure this thing out. I can't, drown myself in alcohol and sit in the fetal position and not work. So I kind of like had to, like, pull myself together and let's just go. Let's just do something. And I'll tell you something interesting that happened. The day I really had that epiphany, like when I'm not working, Frank and I are fairly estranged, just kind of like not just, depression. I just, God, I literally threw my arms up. I was sobbing. God, please take all this from me. I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah,
I'm giving it all to you. I went like that. I screaming in my house. And I went downstairs. I took a shower. I threw away those nasty pajamas, cleaned my, said, I'm going back to my computer. I'm going to I got to start looking for work. I need to get focused on work, and I got to learn about Daniel. That day, an envelope came in the mail. My girlfriend in Connecticut, who I've known since 1976 or before, s- kept telling me, "We were sending you something. Yeah, you was getting it any day." I'm like, "Good, more Bibles," because they're all
yeah.
Christian. Another verse. I get this package, and it's full of these Hallmark greeting cards, and there's a little, like, plastic heart with Corinthians 13, the love one. But the cards were there, and I started opening up these. I was with Frank at our kitchen table, and I pull it out, and there's a nice greeting card wishing us, well, maybe there's a $20 bill in it. Go to Starbucks, get yourself a coffee. Just different things. One was a $500 money order from this guy named Harold Heyer, who I'd seen since 1972. He lived down the street from me. Why is he, just hoping that this can help? So all this money had added up, like these envelopes. Some had money, some didn't. $20, $100 check, or whatever, random. And Denise never told anybody to send money. Nobody, not one person. That money all added up to $1,000, which is exactly how much Frank and I were short to purchase Daniel's transcripts. And it was when the market tanked and everybody was losing everything, including our homes. We didn't care about our flipping houses. I don't give a shit. I'm not paying my mortgage. I'm getting my kids' transcripts. I can
Yeah,
find a place. That's where we were. And that $1,000 came that very day that I gave it him. He'll get goosebumps when I tell it because it's the truth. And that's when I knew, okay, Kate, you got to get yourself pulled together here. Your son, your daughter, your husband, nobody's going to get any better if we don't. Well, I took off running and I never looked back. Fought that beast for years with Daniel. Yes, it was a beautiful, it's still a beautiful journey that I'm on. And so as I learned to navigate the Department of Corrections, more importantly, as they learned to figure me out because they didn't like me at first. I kept showing up. I always had a question. "Excuse me, I have a question," and I'd get my pen and paper waiting for your answer that you're not answering. Where that didn't answer my question. Let me rephrase it for you. How do I get him his glasses? A simple question. He's blind as a bat. He needs glasses. Can you please answer that question for me? It's a simple question. So I was that person,
mhm,
and showing up. And at that time, it was criminal justice reform was all the sexy, exciting talk of the town.
yeah,
So it was. I was out. There was conferences all over the country. There was all these uh, councils forming and groups forming. And so I was showing up at all of these things and always asking myself, where are the other family members? There's all these people. I always say there's the .orgs and the .govs and the .edus in the room, but where's the .fams, the .moms? Where are we? We're talking about us and our kids or our family, our loved ones. Showing up and kept pushing people to say, we know what needs to be done.
mhm,
Department of Corrections didn't like me for a long time. I was a talk of the boardroom. I've heard because I had insiders now by then, and they just realized that they weren't going to get rid of me, and that I was going to advocate for my son at any level, including going to the governor's office and sitting down with him at one point. And they knew that. And the governor's the boss of them.
yeah.
So it was working. Daniel was starting to, well, first Daniel would say, Mama, quit calling the warden. I say, should have had a different mama now, shouldn't you have? That's what Pam would say too. I
Uh-huh,
mean,
totally.
and I have no choice here. They're forcing my hand. by not giving you what you're trying. They were trying to tell me he can do it. No, he can't. He's in a cage. How is he supposed to go do anything? He can't just go call somebody to get help. Y'all stupid.
Here's
So
my this prescription. That's not gonna work. Yeah.
no, yeah. So he got staph infection. It was like his arm was orange and swollen, and I had like it was a Saturday, and none of the officers would help him. And I finally called the warden, made the mistake of giving me his cell phone. So I called the warden and I said, "Look, at dude, he needs to go to a hospital now. And don't forget, staph infection doesn't care if you're an inmate or an officer. Giving you that."
Yeah. Yeah.
He went like
Yeah.
within an hour. He was in the hospital.
Like, "Oh, wait, well, this might affect me?" Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
My step, oh Lord. So
Yeah.
time was going on, and I was just getting really good at what I was doing with Daniel, and family started asking me for help, and I was helping them, and I had the idea to start my company when I realized how many families needed so much help in this ridiculous place. Uh,
Yeah, it was really interesting to, watch you navigate, as you know, you and John worked together on White Roses and stuff too, so, you guys had a tight relationship, but he was very vested in watching you and being a part of what you were doing and what you're referring to, the national I wanna get it right, the National Incarceration Association, and that was just like, I think about I think about badass women. You've always been a badass woman, and, you took that time you needed to take to get through the depths of that hell and the moment, and then it's like, "Okay, what am I gonna do to make change?" And, you're the best person to do it because you're not afraid, you're not gonna back down, and you're not gonna take no for an answer, but you're also I should say, and you're also one of those to, like, wrap your arms around all those families who don't have the skill set or the know-how or whatever it is to then be that dot fam, the things that you saw that were missing, and how do you bring them in, those families whose voices can make a difference, they just don't know how to use them yet, and it's really interesting, so talk about that, like, you decided you're gonna start this association, and what did that look like?
well, first I'll phrase, I always said it was cystic fibrosis and my nephew Pete, who passed away from CF. That was my training grounds for 20 years. And I realized that I knew how to go get money for CF, and I knew how to talk to big, important, I call them mucky mucks. I wasn't afraid. I'm gonna bring a couple of kids with me and give me
That's
20
right.
grand. Well,
Yeah.
easy. But he was my training ground. So when Daniel got into this space, I realized I had the same ability to do here, what I was doing with CF. It's no different. These are just people. I don't care if you're wearing a badge or you're behind a razor wire. So I was the NIA, National Incarceration Association, NIA, started in my mind when I realized how many families needed help and how many families were truly impacted. And we have 34 prisons, just state prisons. That's not including jails, and that's not including feds, and that's not including other detention centers. 34 state prisons in Georgia. And I figure every visitation I'd go, there'd be, let's just say, an average of 50 people in line. Okay, times 30. We had a lot of people that feel like me. They're standing in this line to go behind a wire to kiss someone you love. But we're never connected. Like with CF, you have your family of community. We didn't have that community of people that understood where we were and what we needed. So I thought that's stupid. Why? And I knew
You
why.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think it's because the guilt and the shame and all the things that go along with the concept of prison, or was it you just didn't you're so, like, focused in on your own person that
No,
you're there to see?
it's definitely the guilt. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing and stigma and shame, but also purposefully done. Families are purposefully kept apart. And when we go, we're not allowed to talk to each other in the visitation room. With the line, you just stand in a line, and it's kind of like a bunch of strangers. You're not talking to people in the Walmart line. So we're purposely kept apart because we have knowledge, and knowledge is power. And nobody's ever been able to harness that knowledge and that power in a way that becomes a voter block, which is what my original intentions were, because there are more people impacted by incarceration than any other voter block, bar none. I don't care what y'all think. The National Rifle Association has a membership, pro life, LGBTQ, any voter blocks, if you think about those numbers, they're not nearly as many of people who know somebody who's been locked up, even if it's for a day. There's
Interest.
so many more of us. So I've often so we started the idea of that, but it came into forming it as a nonprofit to help families navigate the journey of incarceration, but also pushing for positive outcomes and pushing for reform. So we do a lot. We stay very focused. We're 10 years old this year. It's our 10th anniversary. So we've been around a minute, and we've got a powerful team, and we really have a lot of respect. Department of Corrections, elected officials, they know who we are. The Fulton County Sheriff knows me. I mean, I've been in his jail. Don't lie to me, Miss Sheriff. I like you, but not a lot of people do what I do. We formed to help families, but more importantly, now it's more about innovating ideas to solutions. We're all about the NIA is all about public safety and crime reduction. Lock people up like my son and not fix them. We'll get back to my minute because if you lock in if someone commits a crime, we arrest them and detain them for a reason. But we have to understand what is the reason. Are you detaining them because they're dangerous? Are you detaining them because you're angry at them? What's the reason? And what are you looking for? What's the solution? What's the problem you're trying to solve by detaining a human being? So for somebody who does commit an armed robbery, we think armed robbery, we think, at the
Yeah.
ATM. So that person has some kind of something wrong, right? We figure out what's wrong with that human being. And then we got to figure out a formula how to fix them while they're locked up. Because coming home, matter 95% of the people that we lock up come home, no matter how long they've been in, no matter what crime they've done. 95 come home at some point. And if they're not fixed during that time, the only thing that can happen is they can get worse, period. They cannot get better. You can't get better without treatment for substance use disorder or mental illness, treatment for anger management, treatment for criminal, behavior, or you can't get better if you can't educate somebody and teach them, train them, give them tools and resources to grow, right? You gotta do all the simultaneously. That's how it works.
Yeah, for sure.
But that
This is a little separate side note, but interestingly, totally coincidental. My book club that I had last night, the book that we read, do you know the book, The Many Lives of Mama Love?
well, I've heard of it, I've not read it.
This woman who was addicted to heroin and, like, same thing, white, upper middle class, masters of fine arts, whatever. She's a crazy story, and ended up in the prison system, and just like I mean, she's gone on to be a, best-selling author and, met Oprah and met the Dalai Lama, and she's done all these crazy things that it's just like feels fantastical, um, but it goes so much into you're completely screwed once you're in the system. Like it's meant to keep you there
Yeah,
instead of when you get
it is.
out.
Mhm.
Like she pulled over one time and she was like 7 years she was on probation for a long time because she couldn't pay back the restitution, and so they kept her on probation. She's, like, out with her kids to get Chipotle and had a taillight out, and then
Boy,
suddenly she had 10 cops surrounding her, and it'd been, like, nothing hadn't done a thing wrong in whatever, 4 years or 7 years, and she was, like, SWAT team around her because she's on probation and she had been in prison however long ago. She was like, it's, like, so meant to keep you there,
it
and
is.
feel that you feel the same?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is no formula to get them home and keep them home,
Mhm.
and have heard stories like that many, many times, and I've literally talked to thousands of families over the last 10 years. Sometimes I think I've heard it all now, and then it's like, "What? You talk" So inside right now, Georgia state prisons are horrific shape. There's extreme violence, there's extreme understaffing, there's extreme drug abuse, there's contraband, cell phones, knives, guns being brought in daily. It's much more dangerous than when Daniel was there right now. Daniel would have been he was sentenced, he would have come home in 2028. But I fought all those years and got his sentence modified with a lot of work with our district attorney at the time, um, for years and joining all these committees and councils and constantly pecking at them until the DA agreed to modify his sentence, a joint modification. The judge agreed in her infinite wisdom, the DA agreed to 4 years with treatment afterwards, but the judge decided 6 years. So he stayed in 2 more years after that agreement and came home in October of 2018. Uh, It was just, and that was an interesting day too. We were so excited. He had been in a transitional center, which is where they can work. It's a work release program. So he had been in the locked in the prison cage for 5 years, and then he went to the transitional center right up here in Beaufort, Georgia, and he was allowed to work, have a cell phone, finally put on street clothes, like we could bring him clothes instead of blue and white uniform. He matter of fact, I went to visit him for the first time he got to wear street clothes, and he's sitting looking the whole time, he's like, "Look at this." He's like, "Look at these. What are you doing?" He goes, "Look at these clothes, man. These are awesome."
Look at these clothes. Yeah.
I mean, he lived in a concrete room, white walls with a white uniform, with white sneakers. The mirrors aren't really mirrors, they're like tin, so you can't really see yourself even. For 5 years like that in a dorm of 60 men, like, you can't even touch dorm, bunk to bunk, 3 stacks. So living with that for 5 years and then coming out into what was freedom, and he was allowed to go outside the gate, and he called me, "Mom, this is amazing. I could walk away, but I won't. Don't worry, I won't. But won't you do it?" Oh, my kid, we're close. So he was working, and he was doing remarkably well, in spite of 5 years of nothing, no educational opportunities, no treatment for a substance use disorder, no nothing, 0. Oh, he played hacky sack, really good at hacky sack. I mean, he coulda had a master's degree.
Yeah, no kidding. While he was in because he didn't have treatment, was he able to still have access to drugs, do you think? Was that still
Yeah,
happening?
yeah. He was, pretty good. He was abstinent most of the time, but he tested dirty for marijuana several times. I know he drank alcohol a little bit, although that was never his drug of choice. He never really liked alcohol. But he was pretty good in there because his addiction was stalled
Yeah,
because he was he lived in a very structured environment. You don't every day you do the same thing. Talk about ground. Get up at the same time. You eat the same crap. You don't nobody you can't just you can't decide when you do anything. Someone tells you when you get up. Somebody tells you when you eat. Somebody tells you what you eat. Somebody tells you when when you can take a shower. Every single thing someone tells you all for 5 years straight. You don't turn a light on, you don't open or shut a door, you do nothing. The only thing that you do that you have any control over is maybe folding your stuff to fit in your little locker. You know, and that has to be perfect, like inspection ready. So it's a very controlled that stalled his addiction, but it didn't treat his addiction. And this is interesting, that I thinking back now, I realize that, and what I've learned that what treatment really looks like for someone in like Daniel's severe case, um, it could have been done. In that 5 years, he could have had such amazing treatment and simultaneously learning skills, going to college, getting courses, learning, growing, healing, right?
totally.
And
It
yeah,
makes sense to have that done. So it again gives you a fighting chance when you're already gonna have things stacked against you when you get out,
yeah,
just having the record, just by
that's right.
on your
Right there,
record.
you check that box, you're not getting
Yeah,
a job, you're not getting housing, you're not getting insurance, you're not getting anything.
you have so many stacked against you. But if you could
Mhm.
come out, like, healed, clean, like, securely clean, and more educated, that just makes sense. It makes
Duh.
sense.
See, you're
Duh.
so logical.
Yeah. Like,
You
what
said
else are you in there? Like,
yeah.
why not?
And that's just society as a whole has to understand that a lot of people say, "Well, you give them a free education, they don't deserve." I'm not saying that. Currently, they are coming home, and they're coming home more damaged, more dangerous than they went in. So it's in the best interest of public safety to fix a human being that already had damage. Daniel had some things wrong.
Yeah.
He had an addiction, but he also had some anger management issues. He had some stuff that needed to be dealt with, and also he needed the structure of learning to grow in a way that makes sense to him. So I get angry when people don't realize the collateral damage that causes when we don't fix a human being when they're incarcerated. Now we all understand professional clinicians, real psychiatrists, psychologists, people that are professionals in criminal psych, they know how to evaluate a human being. And we know there are people that we can never let come home. We know
Yeah.
some people can never be fixed. We already know, we already have the tools to properly assess those dangerous criminals. That's a no-brainer. But that's a
Yeah.
small percentage of the people
I
that
was
live in
gonna
our
say, a small sampling out of all the vast majority of people that are in could truly benefit
right.
from
Yes, and
resources like that.
right, and come home and come home and give back to their community with not just their time and energy, but to gross domestic, by GDP, by working and paying taxes and buying, purchasing things, and being what consumers are supposed to be to help a community thrive. That's what we want. So we did none of that. Daniel did get home the day that he was a max out. So he came home October 15th, 2018. We knew the date. Like he couldn't, some people parole, but because he had an armed robbery, seven deadly sins, not parole eligible. We knew his date, which is actually kind of better than not knowing because the parole board likes to mess with your head. And we'll talk about that another day. But so we all got there, got to the prison and waiting for them to pop that gate. And out he comes. And I often remember seeing him. First of all, I was so excited. I'd seen him a lot. He was able to come home for Sundays for a period of time. So times, but here he comes walking out with his garbage bag full of his last few worldly possessions in a garbage bag. That's how they release him. Now that's basically in a $25, gift card to, so basically it's take your garbage and get out of here. See you
Yeah.
soon. That's kind of the mentality. Yeah, we'll see you soon. So, but he came home and it was such a beautiful time. I always say it was like birth again, it was like the joy of birth. I mean, I had him born and then he died. And when he went to the prison, and he was born again. And it was just a beautiful time. He had a girl. His sister was waiting to get married for him to come home. So she got married that year. Just so many beautiful things were happening and we were just really at peace. But again, not understanding what I know now and what our company has developed the model to see this picture so clearly. Without that treatment, we didn't understand it. Daniel, because during his incarceration, he was traumatized. I mean, full traumas of the sounds of the prisons itself, the clang, the guards, the CERT team coming in, shaking up your door, all these warlike traumas
Yeah.
happen, that cause something called post-incarceration syndrome or post-traumatic prison disorder. It's a very similar. It's not been, medically claimed, if you will, but it's a real disorder. And so Daniel came home to all kinds of opportunity, unlike a lot of people. He couldn't get a job at Target. They wouldn't hire him because of his felony conviction. And the girl that was ready to hire was so excited. Yay. And then she's even like, "What? We don't have anybody to work. And you're saying no to this kid?" Yes. Yeah. So anyway, he was fortunate to find a good job. And he and Evie, they bought a house. Things looked really good, but I didn't understand that the triggers had started pretty early on. And triggers of hearing, like I remember him, he would react too extreme, either too angry or too laughing too hard. These really extreme emotions would come out. Like Evie and I were at the house, and he was supposed to be painting the baby's bedroom because she was pregnant now, and he's, "I'm gonna do it when I can." It was just like we're like, "Whoa, what was that all about?" But those were because he heard her voice as if it was the warden yelling at him, "Inmate, inmate, go paint the room." So things were happening in his head. And because he's an addict, the brain is immediately going to this space. It says, "Go get yourself something,"
Wait.
right? A
Escapes.
little something to make you feel better. When Enzo was, we were in the hospital, and Dana was, um, the baby came, and she had a C-section, so we had to take her stuff from this one room to go to her room. And on that plastic cart, everybody knows what those look like. Well, Daniel was pushing the cart, and he had a massive anxiety attack where he started sweating, crying, shaking. He says, "Mom, I feel like I'm back in prison." The hallways are just like, it's a very much like it's an institution. It's the same concrete block, right? Those floors, those shiny floors, they use those plastic carts to push the books around or the food around. So he left the hospital and went and bought cigarettes, even though Evie's like, "I just had the baby. Where are you going?" But he couldn't stay. And so looking back, he was having a major panic attack that his brain said, "Go get cigarettes. That'll calm you down." Next thing you know, it's go get a Xanax. Take one, you'll be all right. Next thing you know, it's take, this, and next thing you know, it's take that, and next thing you know, it's just take heroin, you'll be fine. And he started failing all over again. It was a same cycle coming back. It was like reliving the nightmare. But now he had a baby and a girl and a home, and things were just falling apart. It was really sad for him. But on the other hand, he did have a lot of really good times during his last time, his period of freedom. Like really, he got to do things. Got to go on a cruise. He got to go see the Braves in the fancy section. He got to go to Falcons and the fancy section. Just got to do a lot of really special things that he had missed out on all those 6 years. So that felt good. But sadly, his addiction overtook, and he was in and out of treatment again. That's a whole nother talk show for another 7-hour conversation because the treatment centers are just carpetbaggers coming in to take advantage of sick people and never really fixing the problem. It's disgusting. So he went in and out of treatment. He left one program. We went up to Ohio for a dear friends of ours wedding, and that was the last time our family was all together. That was July 4th weekend, 2021. And he looked amazing. He was gorgeous. He's all the girls loved him. He was
Ah,
estranged from Evie, but they were trying to get back together. It was just a beautiful time for our family. And he went back into treatment because he relapsed again when he got home. And sadly, he passed away August 15th, 2021 from fentanyl. The fentanyl got him. And he did pass away in a treatment facility.
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was just but, Daniel passed when he died, like, I got the knock on the door now this time at 6:30 in the morning, the doorbell ring. I knew,
Yeah.
I knew. There was no doubt in my mind. Both Frank and I knew. We didn't even cry. It was, like, so weird. It was so surreal. It was like,
Oh,
how is this But I often say that his I knew what was beginning to happen to my grief was coming. I could feel it coming, and I knew I couldn't let that come again.
yeah.
It would kill me this time.
Go to those depths again. Yeah.
I would have been I would have lost everything, and I couldn't do that. Dana would never want me to do that, so I didn't do it. I mean, I have moments. I'm getting emotional now, but he's at peace. He was always at risk of going back to prison because of his addiction.
Yeah.
And probation.
Living that way, I mean, living that way while you're in prison, like, as you're talking about it, I feel myself getting anxious. I feel my anxiety levels going up just imagining it, and like, picturing him walking down the hospital and flashing back, like, that's, like, true PTSD. Like, that I feel my anxiety rising, so which is, this much compared to what he surely was living, and then, again, just reading that book about this woman's personal experience, that you're literally always on edge, just waiting for the shoe to drop. Like one thing to go a tiny bit wrong, you're screwed, you're back. And you think about how that how it feels to live like that and how it feels to live in that constant state of PTSD. Um, the pull that has to be so powerful that to have his baby, like, you would think, "Oh, he's got a baby, he's got that to live for. All these things are going great. How can the drug how do they care more about the drug than they do about this?" But it's not about caring about the drug. It's
No,
like,
it's
how
a
do you live
they're damaged. They're
and
truly damaged.
survive? It feels like it's about survival.
Yep, it is, and he's a man, and he couldn't get a job. He lost his job in COVID like so many people. So he tried to do the hustle, but, that's not what a man wants to do to raise with a family, and a home. He didn't get to that feeds into his own insecurities and his own issues. Those things were real for him. He was a good man. Now you got to meet him, and, yeah, he was a good guy, and Evie is thank God, Enzo is doing great. He's 6.5 now. Daniel's been gone 5 years this year. Yeah, Enzo's adorable. He reminds me so much of his father in so many ways. That's a real blessing for us to have Enzo, and Evie's doing really well in spite she still has her moments, and I wish she would belong to your group, but she's just far enough away and distant in her hour and work, but she's found, value in what you do with your group and understands that our grief is all different. I'm a mother grieving a son. She's a wife grieving a husband. You're that, but then there's the sister grieving her brother. So we all have these different positions in life that grief
Yeah.
is grief. And
Grief is grief. It is, but, it is, everybody has different spaces that are empty because of the loss, so it
mhm.
is different from you're the wife and the mother of your children together. There's, who's taking out the trash, like those spaces, who's doing these things versus the mom perspective. It's very, very different, but it all is just sucks and it's grief and it's a tragic one of those tragedies that feels so preventable that it makes it that much harder to make it make sense in your
Yeah,
brain.
you'll get angry. Frank will get angry. He got angry the other day for the first time in a while, which is just so unfair what happened to our it really is. And I
Yeah.
always written about this many times that I feel personally that my country failed us in our systems. The public health system failed my son. The education system failed my son. The justice system failed my son. And the national security system failed my son. Fentanyl came through our open borders. I feel that like my family was damaged by what I believed was my country's protection mechanisms for us, and none of them worked for us. And I tried to make them work. I tried to ask them, "Please help me." So, those are things that I continue to battle and fight for families because we're still losing kids to both the fentanyl not kids too, now these are adults that are dying too, but we're still losing masses of people. If they don't die, they end up in our prisons, sick as all get out. We're paying billions of dollars for this, and we're not getting anywhere. So, I think Daniel's story, Pete's story, your husband's story are all stories that help build, like, how do you grow in spite of trauma and pain?
Yeah.
There is
Oh,
something called post-traumatic growth, and I read about this once many years ago, and I should look maybe I'll let you look it up, but it's like, how do you grow out of trauma and pain and grief? And when you do that, and I help families understand, it really helps to dive into something. Yeah, something that makes sense to you. That you feel like your pain is going to a worthy cause, and that's why so many people start nonprofits. I'm gonna start a nonprofit, it's gonna be because I don't know we have to all start nonprofits, but do something if join something, become part of something, um, and
yeah, totally,
let
totally
pain
agree.
let
Mhm.
pain come out to help you heal.
Yeah, I think that there's definite it's almost like well, people have said to me with cystic fibrosis, for instance, where they're like, "You've done so many great things. It's amazing. It's amazing." And I say, "It's self-serving." Like it is self-serving because John and I, when the boys were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, you know, many people do, is we just jumped into the fundraising because that was our way of taking the power back. That's our way of saying, "We're not accepting this. We're gonna make a change, and we're gonna do every fucking thing we can to not let their death sentence be our reality. And if there's a way that we can make a change, we're gonna do it." And, I had that conversation with John when he was diagnosed with his glioblastoma. I said, "I feel like the universe is, like, sending me I'm not learning my lesson in this life because I don't wanna have to learn my next lesson as a widow." But now, to your point, like, I feel exactly the same. The stuff that I did in the CF world gave me the skills to do what I'm doing in the widow space now. And
Mhm.
it
Right,
just I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have that first
right.
part of and,
That's right.
and of course, the widow space, it sounds weird, but it has brought me so much joy and so much healing because I see what it's doing to these women who are like it's a forgotten demographic. It really truly is. Just like just like people who have been sentenced. It's a forgotten demographic. And it's just not they're obviously different in the sense the emotions and all the things that are carried, but it's an underserved and forgotten
Yeah,
demographic.
that's right.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. But not with you around. We're gonna make sure it ain't forgotten.
Or you
Uh-uh.
love to hear because you've met, like you said, so many families, and you've been able to make a difference in so many families' lives. Do you have like a standout example of like something that you've just like a story of a family that just makes you really proud of what you're doing? You should be proud regardless, but do
Yeah.
you have something
I have a
stand?
lot a lot of them. There's a couple that stand out. One is a young man, he's still incarcerated, but I've been working with him for 10 years now and his family, because he also had substance use disorder and, kept relapsing while incarcerated and getting into trouble. So over the years, I helped kinda guide them and him and to, like, "Let's figure out how to do better. I know it's rough in there, but you gotta figure out if you're tied to a hospital bed or you're behind a prison wall, you gotta figure out a way to find personal growth." So we worked with him for years and years, and I just got a call from him last night. They finally moved him to he'll be coming home soon. He's been in 10 years, but to a really good camp that has really good programs and some really serious treatment because he still needs treatment, and so we finally got him there, and he sounded so happy. He's so great. His father calls me. They're so grateful. So there's stories like that, and then there's stories of this young woman. She, is in and out of prison her whole life. She every time she got released, she got back in her old neighborhood. She never had any skill set, nothing in there. She was, addicted to drugs, whatever other issues. Came back to your own s back to the streets. Trouble, 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 started drugs again, back in, back out, back in. That went on for like 13 years. The guy that came into our program, we have a housing program for women, and she came into our program about 2 and a half, maybe 3 years now. She got At one point, she said, "This is the longest she's ever been out of prison." That's the first thing she said, and then she said, now she's working full time. She got credentialed as a forensic peer mentor and addiction and a certified peer specialist in addictive health, and she's our housing manager in one of our houses now.
Stop it. Oh
Yeah,
my god,
it's
that's awesome.
insane. She's
That
been
just
so 5 years now, and, she's really good with the women that come into her home because she's been there, done that, and so,
wow.
yeah, we have those. We always again, our thing is first and foremost, is the person safe? And are they growing? If you're not
Yeah,
growing, what's the point? You gotta
right.
figure out a way to do better in spite of the dire situation you're in, and you know who taught me that? Barbara Bricker. Barbara, you're gonna watch this. She told me that when Pete was so sick, she said, "You've gotta no, when Daniel went in, that's what it was. You always have to figure out where you can do your best." And that she was right. She's right. Like, you
She's
gotta
right. Yeah,
just
yeah.
that fetal position with a wine bottle, it's not very becoming. It's not attractive at all.
No, and I think we all have to like live in that space for a little bit of time just to like be able to hopefully come out of it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, enough is enough. Like, get your shit together, move on. So, or move forward. It's not moving on. I hate it when people
No.
say that. You're like
Yeah.
moving forward. How do I move forward with this as part of my story now?
Okay. It's right here with me, but I'm gonna go. I'm not
That's right.
putting on those pajamas again. I did not bec I just looked I looked in the mirror when I was still really sick, and I'm like, "God, a hideous woman. She's hideous."
Yeah. I look back now too at pictures of me in the
Yeah.
darkest days and I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
my
Right.
god." Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you're a survivor. We're survivors, and
Survivors. Yeah.
we'll be okay, and our stories are, I say, this is the American story, right? All of this.
Well,
What people
addiction it literally affects so many people in our population and again, supremely underserved. Sup
it's terrible, but I'll keep battling out there. I'm not going anywhere. It's been 10 years. I plan on retiring at some point, but not quite yet. I'm
yeah, not
gonna
quite. Well, if you wanted to get like how would people get in touch with you? I'll put links in our show notes and stuff too, but if somebody's listening to this going, "I wish I had this. I wish I could be connected to this." What do they do?
we do have a website, joinnia.com. Pam will share that. I'm on LinkedIn and on, Facebook. Feel free to reach out because we do have a team of intake coordinators that will take calls, but I'll take your call personally. I still take calls to, help start the process. Even if your person's not been arrested or maybe you feel like they're heading that way or they just got arrested, you don't know what to do. We're not attorneys, but I sure know what to do
You've
to
been
not
through it. Yeah.
be
You've
shitty
learned.
attorney. I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have knowledge.
I think it sounds so much like when someone gets diagnosed with cancer. It's like learning a new language, but you're under
Yeah.
time crunch that you gotta learn it so fast. It sounds like there's so many
It
parallels.
There are
Crazy.
so many, I say that a lot. There are so many parallels because you're just when you got a sick person in the hospital, you're just sitting in this little room waiting for something. You're hoping somebody will bring you an answer, but they don't. You gotta chase them down, to find the answer. And so it's to be that way, but we'll just pick at one little thing at a time.
That's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, feel free to call, reach out if you have a family member that's in trouble or yourself personally. With grown men call us up and say, I need help because I'm getting ready to go to prison, like literally. And
That's
yeah,
impressive that they do. And thank God they have you to serve as a resource. I mean, that's tremendous. It's probably just like the CF world, just like whatever in the widow space, like there will be no way to really really get a solid number on the number of lives that you are positively impacting and changing, which on the one hand, I'm sure you're just like me in the sense that that competitive nature, like, I wanna know the full impact. We'll never know, but knowing and then, like, multiplying it times 1,000, is like, that's gonna be your number
it's
because
exactly it
it's just
is.
insane. Yeah.
I was at a Sprint store one time, and the lady said, "You're Kate Boccia? You helped my sister."
No. My god.
Oh, okay, good, thanks. But yeah,
Oh,
so you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
exponentially gonna
It's
go to where it needs to go.
it is, and I mean, just impressive, the the resilience, the strength, the pure, like, mom power that you mustered from the depths
Well,
to
I'll tell you a funny story about mom real quick. They call me Mama Kate, and you'll see my story on the website. And there's a blog I wrote about that. But she's now our chief development officer. She heard about me. Her husband was incarcerated, and he said, "There's this woman's name Kate, and her phone number. It's on the bathroom wall in a prison." And I said, "Well, for a for a good town call." And she said, "I'm calling this number like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm calling this woman named Kate. It's on my husband's well in a prison, but
That's hilarious. Oh
oh,
my god.
way to call Mama Kate."
Mama Kate, I love it. Well, I will definitely put the website, your Facebook link, and your LinkedIn in the show notes, and, I just think you're amazing. I've always thought you're amazing, and you're
Oh,
just
good job.
continuing to be amazing and making the world better with your pure sheer will and power to do good. Yeah,
Just Mama,
that's
Mama Clark. That's all.
well, is there anything else you wanted to share that I didn't think of or
Thank you. No, one thing. I'll see you tomorrow night. I think Wine and Roses stuff kickoff. You going? No. I get my Shamrockin' mug here. I use that every
good.
day to do stuff. So we still have CF stuff to do. So
Let's do
I
stuff. That's right.
yeah.
We're not
So
giving
but
up
no,
on that.
thank you. Yeah,
All right.
thank you
Well,
for having
thank you,
me. It's
Kate,
been a lot
so
of fun.
thank you for joining us. Thank you for this important conversation. And yeah, you're amazing. You're impressive, and I'm really grateful to have you as part of my family and friend circle. And I just think you're awesome. And yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to Kate, she's there for you, Mama
Mhm.
Kate. Take care of
That's
you.
right.
So yeah, so thank you all for joining. Thank you for tuning in and yeah, check Kate out because she's awesome. But all right.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kate. I love
Thank
you.
you. Love you
Um,
too. I'll see
all
you
right.
soon.
Here.
Bye, everybody.